All right, guys, what's happening? What's happening? Happy Monday to you. It is Monday, July 19th, 2021. And this morning, we're going to have a little conversation about a topic that I think is relevant to most people that do this kind of thing. Like we're always giving advice. We're always, kind of putting topics out there, trying to guide people in the right directions. And this morning, I wanted to instead ask you some questions. So instead of being here to tell you what to do, I'm here to ask you some questions. So this will be an interesting conversation, I think, and an interesting, thought-provoking morning for you with regard to some important questions to ask yourself in your life. Let's get started.
It is ultimately important for you to look at your goals, truly what you want to do in your life. And then look at the people who you spend the most time with in your life and figure out if that lines up.
All right, what's happening, guys? Good morning to you. Sorry for the delay getting started here. So as some of you might have seen, we had a power outage on Friday at our office. And man, when I got in here this morning and went to turn everything on, it was a big problem. There was everything was off. Everything needed restarted. Everything, needed some attention. The computer was malfunctioning. So when you do a live show like this, these are the things that you deal with that you can't really control too well. You try to do your best, but you can't really control too well. So but happy Monday to you guys. Good morning. And I think this is going to be a great conversation this morning. I think it's going to, leave you guys with some things to think about. And I think it's a really important conversation to have at any time, but especially, kind of halfway through the year here as you go into the back half of the year. I think some of these questions will get you thinking about, how you want to handle the back half of the year. What are your goals? Do you need to revisit some things? I know, there's some things that in my life that I'm processing and some things that are happening. And, so I always, during those times, I always try to take the time to kind of reset my focus, reset my goals, reset the things that I want for the next chapter, right? For whatever the next level of things is. I try to be very specific and intentional about where I'm going. And so that's part of the conversation that I wanted to have this morning. But as always, I want to start off just saying good morning to some folks. Jared Bird, good morning to you. Daniel Good, my brother, good morning to you, man. Dan Hill, good morning. Bob and Cynthia, good morning to you. Christina, my wife's on here. I love you, babe. Trisha, and I would assume Trisha's family is listening because they are traveling this morning. Good morning to you guys. David Martin, what's happening? And Trudy, good morning to you. All right, so, the title of this is, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to ask you some questions. And here's some things that I want you guys to ponder this morning. I have three main questions, and I'm gonna ask them in specific order for a reason. The number one question that I want to ask you and I want to talk about this morning is, how do you actually want to live your life? How do you actually want to live your life? That quiet time right there gave you some time to actually, get your brain moving and think about, like, how do I actually want to live my life? Are there things that I'm investing time into that I maybe shouldn't be? Are there things that I'm doing that I know are not contributing to ultimately the goals and the happiness that I'm pursuing? How do you want to live your life? And I am passionate about asking you guys that question because I interact with a lot of people and I have a lot of people that ask me for guidance or advice or how to handle certain situations. And I will tell you, it is bothersome, disturbing how many people do not live their life intentionally. They are in a mode where they are taking life as it comes. And maybe they think that they're being intentional, but they're only being intentional about maybe 10 or 20% of their life. And by the way, I am far from intentional about 100% of my life. I am working on it, right? I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to be intentional about all aspects, about every single thing that I do. And so I want you to think about that question this morning. How do you actually want to live your life? What does it look like? What does it look like 10 years from now? I shared a post last week. I've mentioned it, I believe, on this show last week about setting your goals, like thinking 10 years out and working backwards. What do you need to do today to make your 10-year goals come to reality? And that stuff is important, guys. And everybody that I know that has made it to a high level of success, everybody that I know has answered those questions. Where do I see myself 10 years from now, and how do I actually get there? And so I ask you to ask yourself that question. And if you guys want, I can drop these questions in the comments so that you can have them to ask yourself later if you guys are traveling or anything and you can't write them down. But how do you actually want to live your life? And I'm talking about every area of your life, right? Your faith, your family, your finances, your fitness, everything, right? How do you want to live these different areas of your life? What does it look like? Like, where do you want to retire? What does the place look like? Who do you want to be around? Those things may change, but if you're living life intentionally and you're trying to figure those things out in advance, you're going to get much better results. And I speak that to you guys from experience, from a person that nothing looked like it does today in my life. And I was able to live life, in an intentional way. And again, I'm far from where I want to be, but I'm getting better every day because I'm trying to make the right choices, surround myself with the right people, do the right things, interact with the right people, learn from the right people. So ask yourself, how do you actually want to live your life? What is most important to you? We're going to get to some of, what is most important to you and why it matters here on the third question. Second question, and this one's relevant for right now. How do you actually want to spend your week this week? How do you want to spend your week? What do you want to spend your week doing? What state of mind do you want to spend your week in? Do you want to spend your week being happy and fulfilled and giving to others and contributing and making an impact and having important conversations that leave others in a better place than they were? Or do you want to get covered up in the details of all the things that happen when you don't have a plan? When you don't have a strategy of how you're going to operate throughout the week will operate for you. And so I ask you that question. I'm here to ask you, how do you actually want to spend your week? And by the way, that's not just this week. That's every week. How do you want to spend your week? What is it that you want to do? How do you want to impact people? What does it look like? How do you want to feel on Friday when you're done? How do you want to feel at the end of every day? That is something I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out, trying to dial in, like, how do I actually want to feel? And when you have that feeling of fulfillment, of giving, of contributing, of making an impact, of the feeling that you have when you have fulfilled relationships in your life, I saw Mrs. Calloway just jumped on here, Lillian Calloway, and I spent the weekend with Lillian and her husband and some other friends of ours. And literally last night I was absolutely exhausted, but I was laying on my couch and I was like, man, just how incredible is it when you get to spend time with the right people and you share, your vision for where you want to go, and you find a way to, to make that, to contribute to each other's visions. And it's indescribable when you get these things right. When you decide how you want to spend your week and who you want to spend it with, and what goals you want to accomplish. And again, like, there were things that we all wanted to accomplish together that we maybe didn't get to the finish line on, but we made progress, right? And we made progress where we can all feel good and we kind of know where we're going. We don't know exactly how we're going to get there yet, but we know where we're going. And we all, I believe everybody's confident in the results. And so when you have intentions, when you go into the week and you decide how you want to spend it and what you want to do, and you have an agenda of what you want to accomplish, you're going to get really close to there. If you show up with nothing, if you just show up for the week every week with no intentions and no plan and no, idea of what you want to do and how you want to feel and how you want to contribute and all that stuff, then the week is going to spend you. You won't get to decide how you spend your week. So think about that. Every single week, what is it that you want to accomplish? And I try to spend quiet time every single week thinking about, what do I want to accomplish this week? What's a priority? What does it look like for this week to be a win so that mentally I can be chasing that all week, right? Every single action that I take, I can refer back to my plan. Does it fit into the plan, and does it fulfill what I want to feel like at the end of the week? And the third thing, and most important, and this word has been coming up frequently in my life, from other people, from me, from some of the people that I'm very close with. How do you want to leave your legacy? And if there is one thing that I can have an impact on people with, it would be thinking about this one. Thinking about literally at the end of your life, looking back and saying, did I check that box? Did I do the things necessary to make the difference that I wanted to make? And will that difference live on well beyond me? What is the impact that I'm able to make? Legacy to me is such an important term, and I am currently working on, what does that term mean to me? How do I describe it? How do I describe the word legacy? What does it look like? I think some of the easy ones that come to mind is, did I make a difference? Did I have an impact? Was I a great role model where people aspire to be better? My children, my grandchildren, they aspire to be better human beings because of who I was. Did I leave something behind that helps others? Those are some of the things that come to mind when I think about that. But do you ask yourself that question? How do you want to leave your legacy? What does it look like? And I will tell you guys, for me, that continues to grow. It's one of the things that reminded me when I made that post last week, and I'd posted that thing about looking 10 years out 6 years ago. And I thought to myself, man, how much things have changed, because what I would have thought was possible 6 years ago is completely different today. And so the legacy that I want to leave is completely different today than it would have been 6 years ago. And so I challenge you guys to ask yourself these questions all the time, right? Very, very, very important for you guys to stay dialed in on your own progress, right? Because the person that you are this year is going to be totally different than who you are next year if you're putting in the work, if you're making progress, if you're really leaning into these different areas of your life. And so ask yourself these questions on a regular basis. How do you want to live your life? What does that look like? Interesting that Judd Burden just left a comment there, right? Of that is a guy that has an example of how he wants to live his life has become a reality. Creating that life that you want. How you want to live your life is important. You have to answer that question for yourself. And there's so many different aspects to that, right? So many different aspects, but you have to spend time thinking about that. How do you want to spend your week? How do you want to spend your weeks? What does it look like? How do you accomplish the things that you set out to accomplish? How do you make an impact in your own life and in the lives of others every single week? Starting with the end in mind, actually having a plan, going on offense instead of defense. Really important for you to decide how you want to spend your weeks and what that looks like. And how do I define progress? And last but not least, the most important question, I believe, for all of us is, how do we want to leave our legacy? And, for this weekend, I walked away from this weekend. That was one of the things I was sitting on the couch last night, exhausted, thinking about, was, man, I am lucky to be connected to people that are focused on that word, that are focused on How do they leave a legacy? How do we all leave a legacy? And how do we try to do that together as much as we can, right? And when you think about leaving a legacy, that is probably the most fulfilling question that we can ever answer for ourselves, is how do we do that? What does it look like? And continue to ask ourselves that question, because again, the legacy you believe you could leave today versus maybe what you believe 5 years from now are going to be very different if you're constantly making progress, right? You know, some of the conversations I've had recently about what we think is possible, the impact that we can make, sometimes when I say it, I think to myself, like, is that really possible? Man, that is incredible. But as you make progress and as you connect to the right people and you start creating things that have a massive impact, that question of how do you want to leave your legacy is always going to be growing. And how cool is that, right? How cool is that you can look at all the different places that you might want to impact and be able to make a difference in all of them and be able to make a massive difference in certain areas. So ask yourself those questions today, guys, as you go into the week. Ask them throughout the week. Ask them this coming weekend, and spend some quiet time trying to figure those things out. How do you want to live your life? You know, how do you want to spend your weeks? And most importantly, how do you want to leave your legacy? When it's all said and done, what do you want to be known for? What difference do you want to make? How do you want to inspire others and set an example for others, for generations to come, to live better and more fulfilling lives themselves? This isn't, by the way, it's not about money. It's about how you make other people feel, the impact, the difference. And that, guys, is the single most important question I believe, you know, we can answer for ourselves in this life, is when it's all said and done, where do we want to be? That's it for today, guys. I will see you again tomorrow morning, same place, same time, right here on Morning Perspective. I hope this episode was helpful for you guys. I hope it got you thinking, and I appreciate you guys being here. See you tomorrow morning. Love you guys. Thanks for being here.